I'm Matt Landau from VRMB, and this is Unlocked, Season 8, First Mover Status. Brittany Blackman of Breezeway Rentals has been a vacation rental professional now for almost a decade. But only over just a year ago did she decide to start her own company. In this interview, we talk through all the things she learned in her journey and the non-negotiables she demanded from herself and her team members when starting from scratch. Whether you're just getting started in the business or you've been doing this for a while, Brittany's obsession with authenticity and professionalism should serve like magnetic North Stars. They move every one of our businesses forward. This episode's brought to you by PointCentral, the leaders in smart home automation, and Breezeway, a property care and operations platform. I started off this interview, like every interview this season, asking what first mover status means to you.
I think for me, it means really stopping to figure out how you're going to shine. How are you going to take your weakness and flip it around to your advantage? Coming from a highly competitive market, it's something that I've really had to focus on, is really stopping and asking myself, who am I? Who do I want my company to be in that presentation? And so I think, a lot of people out there in the industry can apply that to themselves as well, no matter how big or small that they are, really asking yourself, who are you? And if you know that, then I think you can really track forward a lot better.
The first time, Brittany, you kind of came onto my radar was with a video that you posted at the peak of the pandemic. And I did a little research. It was May 15th, 2020. And this video that you posted to Facebook, it kind of went viral, right?
It did, yes.
How many views and comments did it end up getting?
Oh, I don't even know how many comments. It was several hundred. And the last time I looked at it, I think it was over 35,000 views.
And it's you holding your phone vertically and just speaking from your heart. And we'll link to it for anyone who hasn't seen it. But you are expressing very passionately the predicament that you found yourself in as a vacation rental professional. At that time, you were working for another vacation rental management company, being shut down in Florida when the other accommodations were open. And you're using these phrases that are so beautiful in a way, and yet so real. You're saying like demolishing to my soul. I was like, oh my gosh, that's demolishing to my soul. And it's 2 years later. I was curious, did you script that video or were you just purely speaking from the heart?
Oh, that was 100% from the heart. I was so frustrated because we, of course, were with COVID shutdowns, and every week we were told that we were going to be reopening, and that day was the press conference, and we were supposed to get the news that we were opening, and for the manyth time, our governor did not even address vacation rentals in the press conference, and it was just something I definitely did not mean for this thing to go viral. I just sat on my back porch and just, was like, I'm just going to talk to my friends on Facebook and just tell them how upset I am. And it was interesting to see where it turned into.
And you have like phone calls coming in that you had to turn off the ringer. You had a dog in the background. And yeah, it was so poignant. And did you, like, you're speaking very factually in addition to emotionally from the heart. You're talking about specific orders. You're breaking down specific pieces of what doesn't make sense. Is that something that you wanted to be front and center as opposed to just a pity piece, something that was really factually based?
Absolutely. In Florida, we eventually turned into just fact over fear. Thank goodness. But, that was my thing, is I wasn't just wanting to open the business because I wanted to open the business. Like that wasn't it. We had true facts that were in front of us and things that were blatantly being lied about, that it was just like, hey guys, like somebody's going to call attention to this. And if it's BS, sometimes somebody's got to say, hey guys, this is BS. So it was definitely something where I've learned, if you want to get your way, or if you want movement, sometimes being emotional is helpful, but also having facts and knowing what on earth you're talking about gives you a lot better stance than just going up there and crying or whatever on Facebook.
And you had good arguments, like, at the beginning you said all lodging should be shut down. And I think that sort of balance and um, authenticity, it really, really spoke to me. And it certainly spoke to a lot of other vacation rental professionals. And then you fast forward several months later, the next video that I remember seeing is another Brittany talking to her cell phone. But this time you're announcing a turning point in your life, right?
Yes, yes, it was very exciting. I'm definitely not a professional in that sense. If you figured it out by now, I just get on my back porch with my phone and I'm like, all right, guys, this is what's happening.
And the second video, for those of you who haven't seen that one, was Brittany introducing that she was launching her own vacation rental business. And up until that point, would you mind explaining what vacation rental context you were working in prior to September?
Yes. So prior to September of 2020, I'd been in the industry for 9 years at that point, and I had started many, many years ago as a reservationist at a company and slowly just took on more and more things. And for many years, ran that company as the operations manager. And I just have a crazy, insane passion for the industry. And so when COVID hit, it was like this weird little shake of like, hey, what are you doing with your life? And where are you going? Are you happy? And it just, there were things I was happy about, there were things I weren't. And unfortunately, I knew a change was needed. And fortunately, that change has been, very, very good for me. And I'm following on that passion train at this point.
What weren't you happy about prior?
I'm the type of person where I give something my absolute all. It's my downfall and my advantage, of I invest my full self into something. And I, for many years, had the dream of having my own company. And I wanted to be able to say, I've I've worked and I've done this. I've built this team, and together we, have moved mountains and this and that. And every time I thought I was getting to that point, I was not where I needed to be with that, from the other side of things. And so that's, of course, when I decided that, my only option was to leave and, start my own company at that point.
In hindsight, do you think that entrepreneurship is God given? Either you have it or you don't, or do you think it's a trainable trait?
I really think it's in the middle. I think part of it is, how did you grow up? And I had amazing parents who they had their own businesses as well. So I think a lot of it was just the nature of the world that I grew up in and the support system I had. Now, on the flip side of things, I think you either have to be insanely strong minded, or you have to have, and or have to have a great support system. I can honestly say I don't think I would have had the courage to do what I did if I had not met people in the industry over those 9 years and formed friendships and relationships and people who supported me no matter what I did. They just supported me and wanted to see me happy. And I needed that. Otherwise, there's no way I think I would have been able to jump and do it on my own and stay doing it on my own. But when you kind of have like these little cheerleaders around you, A, it helps me, but B, it also is like, man, I can't let these people down now. Like they've been cheering me on. I can't fall flat on my face.
It's almost like you trick yourself into like you owe it to them as
Yeah.
opposed to yourself. And would you recommend working in a vacation rental company before pulling the trigger and starting one's own?
I would, but that is because I think you just get the advantage of having these experiences so you can succeed quicker. I think there are plenty of people out in the industry who have never been in it before, and they certainly can get into it and be successful. And it is just quote unquote just operating a business. I think the advantage though is in having that experience. Like I've always said that in my 9 years of being in the industry, there are so many things that happen that I never would have learned in a textbook. There's absolutely no way. And so, I get asked that question a lot. If I want to start my own company and what do I do? And that's a really loaded question. And I feel very honored and blessed to be able to say I have 9 years of experience. So I contribute my current success to paying attention and living and eating and breathing all of those issues and wisdom from others, over the years versus if I didn't have that, I don't think there's any way I'd be where I'm at today.
Hmm. And from those 9 years of experience, when you did decide to start your own thing, what was one of those lessons that you needed to make priority, top, front, and center about this new venture?
Um, Technology. I knew that I was going to be by myself starting this thing, being the everything. I did have cleaners, but besides that, I was everything. I was creating things, implementing things, and also answering and doing just the normal customer service of the business. So the biggest thing for me was I knew that I was going to have to find a tech stack that helped me be efficient because I don't want to waste my time on things if technology was there to do it. I needed to be able to focus my time on doing other things that technology couldn't answer. So that was my biggest step and the thing that I spent a lot of time researching. Even though I knew what was out there, of course, you still want to see, the newer things, or maybe just because I had it at the other company, maybe it wasn't the right answer for me. And that's where I was able to kind of find those good pieces that helped me a lot, and I couldn't run my business without them today.
Quick shout out. Is there one or two tools that you automatically knew you needed at the central pillar of your business?
Yeah, from the operational standpoint, it was Breezeway. I had used them prior, and I just knew that to be able to keep everything organized, and if owners have special needs, or to be able to look back and see things or repeated issues, Breezeway was definitely the core of the operation for me. And then the second piece was the guest communication experience side, and that's where I found TouchStay. I had not used them previously, but when I did fall on their product, I absolutely loved it. And at this point, I use it from the guest owner perspective side. It's great for my team because we can answer questions so much easier now with kind of a hub of all the details. And then we also have training guides for our staff. And then when I've done some regulations guidebook as well. So those two things, have really helped me a ton with saving my time.
Regulations guidebook. I love that. So, is that kind of outline what the region's regulatory status is like for other owners and managers?
It is. It's a little bit in the works. So here in Walton County, we are facing short-term rental ordinance regulation, and so the biggest thing that I've learned in fighting this regulation, or should I say fair regulation, is just the education piece is not there for operators. And so, I worked in creating this little guidebook that I can hopefully pass off to the county, and it'll list, of course, what the ordinances are, but it also kind of serves as a hub of just, for operators, like where they can find information. If you go to the fire department, you can get this. If you go to the local TDC, they offer these things. And, it's kind of like in a world where there's just so much content. How do I get it into something that's simple and easy to use? And of course, TouchStay, it's all of the above. And now, we can sit there and pass this off depending on how this ordinance goes. We can, fine tune it and then pass it off. So that way it's easy for people to maintain and also review as operators in the area.
Folks, I think it's worth underscoring Brittany's tremendous first mover status advice here. Compile information that people want or need, but doesn't exist yet. Whether it's about your area, things to do, or short-term rental regulation status and legal code. Sharing this information freely as a way to gain trust and respect with all of your stakeholders is super effective. In fact, I invited 20 of the country's leading vacation rental advocates into one room in New Orleans and recorded their best advice for how to reach fair regulation. I then compiled all of those videos into the TouchStay platform, and that product is now available freely to any vacation rental stakeholder. You can visit it at vacationrentaladvocacy.com. Let's get back to the show. When you decided to create your own path, how clear were you with your vision of what Breathe Easy was to look like several years down the line?
It was a vision. It was not a clear-cut path, I'll say that. I like to know what's ahead of me, but I also don't. I'm a perfectionist, so I really don't like to set all these set expectations, because then if I don't meet them, I get really, really mad at myself. Excuse me. So, I knew up front that I did not want to be big. In our area, there are many, many, many medium to large size companies. And in dealing with owners who transferred over those 9 years, I heard what all they didn't like about all of those companies. And so starting Breathe.
What were some of the things?
It was just, they didn't know who to talk to. The communication was very, just not there, or they would change property managers, and do I email this person or call that person, and no response, and nobody really knows what's going on in my property. Of course, cleaning and property maintenance or property care is a very big issue down here, because again, there's so many big companies, and to really do it the right way, I don't know how these big companies can do it. So when I started Breathe Easy, I didn't need to be big. I don't want to be big. And so that's where I was able to take it and say, okay, I'm going to keep this small, and just, I'm going to take the communication and the property care and just all these things that owners were always frustrated about for all these years. And that's what I'm going to focus on. And I knew what kind of properties I wanted. I know what kind of owners I want. I want nice properties that are well kept. So yes, we are fixing things, but it's not like they're always in need of repair. And I want the owners who say yes. I don't want the owners who say no. And I'm willing to separate ways from that. I don't want owners who just want the cheapest things. I'm not the cheapest manager. And it's really hard to say no, because you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing if I tell these owners no? But it's helped me be able to create this brand even more than I knew I wanted this brand to be 2 years ago when I started it, if that makes any sense.
And did you have an idea of the amount of properties that you wanted to manage?
It wasn't a set number. It was just, how many can I have and still be happy? At a certain point, there's a tipping point where you take on more than you can handle. And I just didn't want that. And so, I ran last year with as many as I could and just hired my first full-time person, and I'm kind of, passing some stuff off to her. But I mean, honestly, we're very content where we're at right now. And it's just, let's figure out how we're running, and as long as we're happy and still enjoying and can still focus on the guest experience and the property care, then yes, we can take on a few more. But if we ever start where we can't take care of those guests and we start lacking on property care, that's when, I'm going to pull the reins back. Cause again, I don't need this to be a big company.
And I'd like to dive a little bit more into this first hire, because I think it marks an important milestone for a vacation rental manager, because you don't really have the resources to pull it off at the very beginning. And yet you need it to free up your bandwidth to think about the stuff that really matters to you, to stay happy, to focus on the stuff that you're good at. What was that journey like of building up to the need to hire somebody and then actually finding the right person in this current labor environment?
Yeah. So, and looking back over the past year and a half, I honestly just feel incredibly blessed. I do have several part-timers that help. So I want to keep that in the mix too. It's not like it has just been myself. So basically, from the very beginning of Breathe Easy, like I said, I brought the tech stack on, and then I did everything. And then it's like, okay, can I find somebody who can take care of this or that? And I did. I've had a couple people who I used to work with in the past who, helped me with some small projects and some virtual assistant work, and are great at taking care of those things. So, it was really just looking at the things of like, what can I pass off to someone else? What's easily trainable that I don't have to babysit over? They can kind of take the wheel and be responsible for. And whether it was these part-timers or, in this instance with this full-time person, it was just sitting here going, okay, how how can I figure out all the things that are going to break and go wrong so I know how to train someone for when it's on their plate. So a lot of it was me learning systems and processes. And it's funny because at the other company I was with for those 9 years, I thought I knew a lot of stuff. And it was really eye opening this first year of, I don't feel like I knew anything. I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is why things are so hard. Because so many things can go wrong. There's so many moving parts in this industry. And but it was cool because I could figure that out. And I don't have the exact scientific method for it, but it's just, when you're pulling your hair out and you can't handle anymore, it's obviously that time to find that other person. And again, I just was incredibly blessed by posting an Indeed ad out there and saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for a property manager, and had some great resumes come in, and just happened across this perfect individual who's been doing an amazing job so far. And she wants to succeed, and she wants to kind of have her own baby in a sense, and have her own responsibilities. And it just worked out perfectly of like, okay, we're going to work a lot together over these next few months and learn my ways and learn the Breathe Easy way of life and what our goal is. And she's been doing a great job of picking all of those things up. And the hardest part for me has just been letting go of things. And that's just, again, falls into that whole perfectionist thing of it's mine, it's been attached to me, but now I have to understand that somebody else has to be given that opportunity. And it's okay if she falls. We just got to make sure she picks herself back up and things like that.
Hmm. And if this individual, let's give her a shout out. What's her name?
Cammie.
Cammie. So if Cammie is doing a great job with these activities that you identified and then hired her for, what does that leave time for you to be doing for the most part these days?
Brand awareness. Again, I'm in the Florida Panhandle, which is a highly competitive market. So from the very get go, I knew that brand awareness was going to be, besides tech, the number two thing I need to focus on and put all my attention towards. And so it really has helped me in spending time on learning advertising and marketing for myself and making sure that everything I choose to do falls in line with the brand standard that I want. And just trying to get all of that stuff set up and running, because as a small business, we all know that, social media is painful for advertising. And I don't have the advertising budgets that these other bigger companies have. I don't have the repeat guest list that all these other companies had. So it was the brand awareness that was huge, and just making sure I took time, because if you just get out there and just post all this random stuff, which my stuff is still a little random. I'm not trying to say I'm perfect, but I know what I'm trying to create, and I feel like I'm on this, just this little good vibes, role of the vibe I'm trying to create. And so that's honestly where the biggest thing's been for me, is just the brand awareness and just fine tuning the things that are broken. And when issues occur, I really dive into why did they occur and how can we prevent them from occurring. And honestly, that's a full-time job.
And when it comes to brand building, which I think is very accurate, but can also sometimes sound a little cliche, one of your interpretations of that is word of mouth, I think, and building relationships with people who then do business with you or send you business. Do you view your networking and your relationship building as marketing investments in a way?
Absolutely. We do some things in the community, not as much as I wish I had time to do, but we do some. And, I think the evangelists I've been able to build just in the local area is awesome, because they help share our posts when they have family come into town. They're making sure that they know to check out Breathe Easy Rentals. It's honestly been our biggest source of growth over the past year, owner wise. And it was just because people in the community knew me. I was involved. They knew my passion that I was following. And so anytime they would see anybody looking for a property manager, it was, hey, Breathe Easy Rentals, Breathe Easy Rentals. And that's how we went from 0 to 18 properties in a year. I didn't do any sort of owner advertising or marketing in that sense in that first year. It was all just recommendations. And so, again, I think that's huge. And if they need little staycations, I've helped some of them, and they've come and stay. And I think being part of the community in any way that you can is very helpful.
And for those, I mean, you're only a year old with your own business here. For those first few properties, how did you go about securing exclusive management contracts?
I can say there's probably not too many people in this area that have a crazy passion like I do. And I'm very honest. So I remember, like, for example, a lot of my experiences in condos, and we had this house, a 7-bedroom beachfront house that got referred to me, and it was through a friend who knew what I was doing in the area, and they knew this owner and said, hey, my friend Brittany just started this business. And I met with them, and you're trying to tell an owner who has a $3 million investment property, and you have no rentals and a brand new website with nothing on it, and you have to tell them to trust you. Um, and I did somehow, thank goodness they did, and they're amazing owners. But it was just my passion. It just explained my story. This is what I'm doing. This is where I come from. This is what I want. And I'm very honest. I tell you, I've never managed a house before. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm pretty sure my words were, if you trust me, I'll figure it out. And I have. But, that honesty goes a long way, because I think sometimes so many people get used to being sold just from the sales, just, oh yeah, we'll do this or that. And normally you can kind of read that, and when you're being sold. I don't have anything to sell. You either like me or you don't. We're either going to work really well together or we aren't. It is very blunt, but it is also just the reality of it. I'm not for everybody. Everybody's not for me. But if I'm given that control and if I'm given that trust, I will do everything in my power, to succeed with it. And so there's no magic sauce in it other than me just saying, yeah, guys. And I think especially with COVID, there was like this resurgence of small local businesses, and people really wanted to help that. So it's like when people hear that story or hear my story, they resonate with it and they go, we believe in you. And I don't know why they were willing to trust me, but they did, and I'm very incredibly thankful for it. And we, did awesome with it. And, a few of the owners that I did get as well, had worked with me in the past and said, Brittany, we're coming with you. We don't care what you're doing. We're coming. We trust you. And that was awesome to have that as well.
Yeah, I feel like it in and of itself is a way to stand out by being brutally honest about your position, and in some cases revealing information that is not necessarily best in class, saying you don't really know how to handle XYZ, but you're going to figure it out. I feel like that really endears homeowners, especially in this kind of competitive climate where just yesterday a girlfriend sent me a note that was sent to her, her new home there, and it was from Vacasa, and it was just a template note that had been signed by the CEO, but you could tell it was not personalized at all. It was it was not real. And something tells me that the human element of making yourself a little bit vulnerable, if you have the personality and the confidence to pull it off, can distinguish yourself.
Yeah. And even that, like on our social media and stuff like that, I've really just focused on the authenticity side of it. And it is terrifying getting in front of the camera for me, even though, the videos you said, and you're probably like, what, Brittany? Like, I am terrified. And besides the one video that did go viral, like half the time I have to record my videos like 20 times before I can post one, because my voice is shaking or I stutter or whatever. And that's fine. Like, I know that about myself at this point. But the thing is like, this is Brittany. Like, this is Breathe Easy Rentals, and this is what you get. We are not polished and perfect. And there might be some people who look at this and like shake their head a little bit, but I'm authentic and I'm not going to lie to you. Like, those are the two things you're always going to get, whether you're owner or guest with me. It just is what it is. Like, and I think in this industry, authenticity is beginning to shine through a lot more, paired with professionalism, and that new light that's on us. I feel like it helps me be different, because so many of these other companies are so focused on the, I don't want to say corporate, but just the very, the prim and the proper. And I'm just like, nope, I'm a family. I'm a human just like you guys are. But that helps me, with my brand. And that's just part of who I am. That's part of the Breathe Easy brand, is that authentic. It's just me, guys.
Folks, as you heard earlier in the episode, Brittany is a huge fan of Breezeway, which is a property care and operations platform. Together with the Breezeway team, I agree that letting somebody speak passionately about how much they love something is far better than reading any canned script. So head over and do a demo at breezeway.io/VRMB if you're not already using one of these kinds of tools with your team. If you end up choosing to move forward with Breezeway, they will waive the the implementation fee of $1,000, which is a great deal. This episode's also brought to you by PointCentral, which provides smart property solutions for vacation rental managers. They streamline the operations, protect the property, and enhance the guest experience with keyless access, which is a complete first mover status play these days. You can also gain control of utility bills with a smart thermostat. You can control from wherever you happen to be, especially when guests love drastically raising or lowering the temperature. You get to control that from afar. Prevent costly maintenance projects as well using their water leak detectors, HVAC analytics. These things allow you to be proactive, and frankly, once you start using a smart home automation tool, you pretty much can't envision doing things any other way. You can do a demo at pointcentral.com/VRMB. Let's get back to the show. Part of gauging how well you're doing is in reviews. And I'm curious if there was a review from a guest that stood out to you as validation for what your purpose is.
It was. So we had this review come through last summer, and the guest said that we were the Chick-fil-A of vacation rentals. And I'm pretty sure I screamed and jumped like through my roof because that one sentence meant so much. Because if you know anything about Chick-fil-A, they're incredibly courteous and prompt, and they're just, everybody wants to be them, especially here in, Destin, Florida. Our Chick-fil-A's it's the best drive-through you've ever seen in your entire life. And you look across the street and the ice cream machine's broken somewhere and there's lines and all this everywhere else. But I mean, their efficiency is huge. And obviously with efficiency gains trust and people want to go back. Like, I drive past the Chick-fil-A line. I'm like, I don't care how long it is. I'm going to go because I know I'm going to get the right order. It's going to be cooked perfect. And I'm not going to be in line for 20 minutes, even though that's what it looks like. And so with all of that said, to be called that for vacation rentals, I was like, wow, like that was just really cool and took exactly what I wanted the brand to be. And for a guest to see that and say that, I was amazed.
And did you then, have you since used that phrase in any of your marketing?
I haven't implemented in that. When the review did come out, I went on Google and downloaded a Chick-fil-A font and changed the Breathe Easy Rentals to the Chick-fil-A font and made a post about that. But I've not actually gone in and put it like on the website or anything. It might be a fun little idea to do though.
I do love it as a tip for owners or managers looking to improve their copywriting and their messaging, is really looking through your reviews with a fine-tooth comb and seeing words or phrases that pop off the page in ways that maybe you wouldn't ever have described it yourself. I remember when I was running my vacation rental business in the historic district of Panama in Central America, we always had trouble explaining what the neighborhood was like to folks who had never visited Panama before. And in one of our reviews, a guest said, "You're going to love Casco Viejo. It reminds me of New Orleans 50 years ago." And I was like, wow, that's actually a really nice way for people who do know New Orleans to get a glimpse of what this is like. So it is a healthy exercise, I think, every year or so to print out your reviews and see if you can learn any phrases that can then be integrated into your copy. That is a way to describe your product in ways that maybe you couldn't have on your own. Brittany, when you are so proud to hear the phrase, the Chick-fil-A of vacation rentals, where does standards fit into your business?
Oh, standards is very top of the list. If I did not have standardization and just processes overall, I would be a hot mess, which I sort of am, but it's like controlled chaos hot mess now. Um, but no, I mean, standards are just, no matter how big or small you are. I mean, when I started last year, I think we maybe had 5 or 6 properties, maybe at most out the bat. And even running that, I mean, again, to me, efficiency is one of my number one things that I just live by. And so I had to be efficient. And efficiency meant that it was the same products, it was the same sheets and towels and all of that stuff. And guests were handled the same way. And every property should look the same way, even though, of course, they all have their own differences in them. Anything that I could control had to be standardized. And I'm not going to lie, I've lost some owners, or I should say prospective owners, because of it, because they wanted their own personalization in this or that. And I would, again, just be brutally honest and say, listen, guys, it's just not going to happen, because I'm going to promise you that I'm going to do it. In reality, this is what's going to happen. And, they said, thank you. We appreciate your honesty. And I don't know if they've actually found, their dream out there or not and how that's going, but I knew that I wanted to set myself up for success, not failure. So the standardization was huge for me in everything that I do.
Standards and standard operating procedures are featured in one of our trends for 2022 because it sounds maybe simple, but a lot of vacation rental properties, especially the smaller ones that are um, managed by the owner, lack standards. And lacking standards, I would argue, is our industry's biggest weakness, because if somebody, uh, their expectations are not met, they end up second guessing their next stay at any vacation rental. And if you are to book a vacation rental blindly without any personal referrals, it is a bit of a crapshoot that you are going to have a consistently clean experience. But then, of course, that opens up the other side of the equation. Like everything in vacation rentals, there's two sides to this. What are the areas in which you try to accommodate one offs, individuals, and their personal preferences, as opposed to the core um, regimen that you just talked about?
Um, Really, the only time that I will steer away from the standardizations that we have is just if it has to do with a guest amenity. So if an owner wants a special coffee, or if they want extra amenities, or perhaps they have a little welcome basket with goodies that they want us to provide, as much as I grit my teeth and I'm like, oh man, this just adds 5 minutes of extra work to me. It's something that I'm like, okay, this is what I need to do though, because I'm small, and again, it's part of my brand, and it helps. And I like that owner wants to do those special things for the guests and wants that extra special attention. So even though it does kind of sometimes mess us up a little bit, and we've kind of have to make sure we get our flows corrected where we need to. I know that guest experience is a little bit different and a little bit extra because of that owner who wants to do that. And so in those situations, I'm absolutely willing to. But, just, to your point, yes, our industry very much struggles in standardization across the board, but I don't think people realize how much it can really help your business. Again, whether you have one property or 3 or 5 or 100, it means so much, and it helps your team be more efficient. It saves you time and energy. There's so many things that can go wrong in a day. When you're planning the most perfect day, it's going to be the easiest day. You just have one turn. When you don't have those standardizations and things go awry, it just really really knocks you back, I think, 10 more paces versus if you have some of the standardizations and the organization and, okay, this is always the same thing. I think it helps you when those chaos moments pop up, be able to handle things a lot easier because there are processes in place and you can focus then on just the crazy part of it instead of the normal.
The varying layers of crazy.
Yes.
Do you have homeowners that fall into different profiles of, let's just say, communication preferences?
Um, they do somewhat. For the most part, though, I'm just going to say it bluntly. It's a relationship business. It's not like I am working at a retail store where I can tell you how much I love this shirt and you should buy it because it's going to look so great on you. And you walk out the door and it doesn't matter anything about if you love or hate the shirt afterwards or what I really thought about it. Like, this is a relationship. So you're never in that scenario, like, you're never leaving the store, you're staying in there with me and the shirt, so it's like we're stuck with each other. um so it's like with relationships, and you have to learn that trust with each other. And it's a lot of my time when I am bringing on a new owner goes into that communication, and it's a two-way interview. And I never really took too much time before. Like at the other company I was with, we just wanted properties. And as long as like the property was in the area we could manage, it didn't really matter. We'd say yes, and that was it. Well, with Breathe Easy, I don't want that. And so I interview people. Like, if you email me and say, hey, what's the information about your program? I don't respond to that with information about our program. I start asking you questions because I want to first off even make sure that it's something that I want to take on. And it's been something I've had to kind of learn because I was afraid to do it up front, but I know what it can take from me if I don't do that. And so I've made sure over the past year that I get better about that. And, we now, any prospective owner that I talk to, like, it is a two-way conversation. And I make sure and see what really are your expectations. How much do you want to be involved or not? And, again, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, um, I want owners who are going to say yes, who want to fix things, who want to do things the right way. And if you don't, that's fine, but I'm not the property manager for you at that point. I don't like to be doing things the cheap way and having to come back and circle around to it 24 times throughout the year.
That contributes to your happiness, I'm guessing, the quality of the relationship with both team members and homeowners and guests.
Yes, absolutely.
People can suck a lot of energy out of you.
Yeah, they definitely can. And I don't want to be annoying to someone else too, like there's the owners who they don't want to hear from me 24 times that the same issue happened, so it's totally a two-way street. And again, that's why I said I'm not necessarily everybody's cup of tea. I'm a control freak. I like to handle everything because I'm doing it at 200%. And that's just kind of part of it. But it's definitely a two-way street. It involves both sides of us working together.
And really clearly articulating your boundaries, your needs, your expectations. I think that's also a huge piece that allows the other person in the relationship to understand whether they can realistically meet them or not. And you touched on earlier the role of having a bunch of cheerleaders. Can you talk about, now only under 2 years into your own venture here, how industry events, whether they're virtual or in person, and the colleagues that attend them, have helped accelerate your learning curve?
Yes. Again, I don't think I could have done any of this without the people in the vacation rental industry. First, it's I went to a lot of conferences by myself. I love in-person stuff. Virtual's okay, but I'm an in-person. Like, I'm a hugger. I want to be with you. I want to see, feel, hear, taste everything. So, these networking events that happen in our industry are huge, and it's not just what are we going to learn, but being able to take the time to sit with vendors and other property managers and just talk and, hey, has this happened, or what did you do with this? Like, that's huge. And not I never went into networking to get something out of it, but what I've been able to get out of networking is so big. Like, I never was like, oh, I need to make friends so I can get connection so I can start my business one day. Like, that's never what went through my head. I just had these genuine relationships with people and grew my own passion. And then they would be able, as I said, okay, well, this is happening to that. And they could put me in connection with people who could answer those questions or give guidance. And so, I mean, the from the personal and the professional sense, I think the networking events are absolutely huge. And just, like I said, just taking time. We're all going through so much of this. And, with my vendors that I work with, I don't want to just know their name. Like, I'm a huge vendor advocate. What these people do saves my sanity in my life. And so I want to know about their personal things that are going on and how they're doing and keep up with them. And, just that it's just our industry. We're just relationship built. It's not just oh yeah, here, fix this problem and move on. Like, I want to know these people.
Could not agree more. And if listeners are wondering what your event preferences are, then any that you're going to be attending this year?
Um, I don't know of any offhand. I know, well, I lied to you. Yes, I do. I think it's in September or October. Favor, Florida Alliance for Vacation Rentals, will have their extravaganza in Orlando. I do sit on the board for Northwest Florida there, so I will be attending that. But I don't think I'm going to be able to sneak away to any of the others as much as I would love to this year. We're just going to be too busy. But I don't think, in attending conferences for so many years, I don't think there's one that's necessarily better than the other. I think the biggest thing is you have to be willing to go and network. The people are there. There's different people at all of them. But if you just go and stay with your company, let's say it's a group from your, company that goes, and you just stay with the same 5 people that then it doesn't matter which conference you go to, you're never going to learn anything different. So it was hard for me for so many years because I went by myself to all these conferences, and I'm like the extroverted introvert. So I love people, but I really don't like just going and talking to random people. But I had to, because I'm not going to be at the table and not talk to anybody. That's weird too. So it forced me, like, I put myself in those positions to force myself to get outside of the box. And that's what I would have to encourage anybody else to do. As much as you don't like it, sit at the table with other people that you don't know. And whether it's a small little get together in your community or it's a big national conference or international, like, I don't think any of that matters. You putting yourself out there and being willing to talk to people and say, hi, my name's Brittany. This is what I do. What do you do? Just starting that is all you need to get the flame going. And if you make one connection at a conference and that turns into a friend or someone that you can come back to at some point down the line, the conference was completely worth it. And obviously, the more connections you make, the better. But one, to me, is worth it. Just knowing, like, I have this friend, Angie, from the Carolinas. I know I can call her at any point, and it's just like the coolest thing to know that I can do that at this point. And it's just because we met at a conference one time.
I had a neighbor in that same developing neighborhood that I was living in Panama, who told me that community, in this case, real life neighborhood community, you get out of it what you put in. And I didn't understand exactly what that meant then. and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it now. But I do think that there are examples like you've just given in which it does require some proactive behavior on your part in order to see the return. And I'm just curious now, coming upon your 10-year vacation rental anniversary, is there anything that has surprised you about making the transition from being an employee of a vacation rental company to now being the owner?
I just forgot how hard this industry is. Forgot how many moving parts there are. You know, when you come from a team that does everything and then you're that person, I just realized so many things. Like I said, I thought I knew a lot over 9 years, and this past year has just been so amazing to me just to learn the procedures, you know, the SOPs and all of that. Like it's just been eye-opening, and I'm like, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? And then I remind myself about this little passion train that I'm on. So I just, yeah, I mean, I think just knowing what you want, or at least just that vision forward, I just think is so huge. And there's so many things that pop up around me that I want to do and I get so excited about, but then I go back and I say, okay, is it really following in line with that vision that I have? No, it's not. I need to drop it. You know, I get so excited about all these things. So, you know, just taking time, like you were talking about with the reviews, like take time once a year. I think that's amazing feedback. And I want to like really push on that, like just taking time to stop and say, is this what I want to do? Is this what I want to keep doing? You know, and am I following in line with that goal? Is just taking time is the biggest struggle, but one of the things I think that's been most rewarding to make sure you're staying on track.
I loved this interview, mostly because Brittany is, for me, like this bridge who fuses knowledge of the established business with her own instinct and entrepreneurship. And my favorite quote was when Brittany was identifying professionalism, this idea of going all in on standards and the right tools, and authenticity, her passion train, that she sometimes refers to as a controlled hot mess, as these two keys to her success: professionalism and authenticity. It's worth thinking about. Brittany also hit on several hot button items featured in VRMB's 2022 Trends Report, which you can now buy at vrmb.com/trends. It costs $24. As a teaser for next week's episode, here's Madeline List from Focusrite on what first mover status means to her.
So first mover status to me really means this opportunity to write the rule book and to set best practices as you go, moving into a blank space where someone hasn't been there before to talk about the best way to approach the customer, to approach your operations, to know your customer. And it's just this incredible tabula rasa that you can have to set the rules and set the standards in your space.